And I'm so excited to be here. And I was asked to do this talk, I think it was about 3 or 4 months ago. And I honestly hadn't heard of Luminosity before. And I got chatting to Jack and Morello, and we're chatting about Luminosity and what's happening, and just spending some time last night with some of the other speakers and the partners and so on. And I just have such respect for the people who started Luminosity 4 years ago, because I believe so powerfully in leadership, and I believe that it's you guys that are obviously the leaders of tomorrow. So first of all, I just really want to say I'm so grateful to be here and honoured to be here. And secondly, that I have such respect for you guys being here and spending 3 days to stretch your brains and being inspired. I know today is the theme of Inspire, so I hope that I can do that for you. So I'm really grateful, really excited to be here, but I'm also really nervous because you guys are young, you're cool. It's like, what do I wear? Like, what do I wear to this? You know, I can't wear, a business suit. I can't wear a smart kind of pencil shirt thing, suit, so it needs to be, funky jeans. So I don't know if I look funky for this audience. Am I doing okay? Phew, thank you. And so what I'm talking to you about today is Remarkability. And I'll tell you obviously a little bit about that in a few minutes. Can I first just get an idea, what age are you guys? Is it kind of 18-year-olds, can I see? 16-year-olds? 19-year-olds? Did I say 17? 17? Yes! We've got the most 17-year-olds. Awesome. And guys, can I just check, is my mic okay? Because it's just making funny noises. I'm okay? Yeah, cool. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So thrilled to be here and then talk to you guys. I'm very excited as well that the book came out. I was chatting to people outside and we're reading your book at the moment. And for me, it's still really weird that I've got a book and all my kind of ideas and so on are out there. So today I am talking to you about remarkability. And what I mean by remarkability is it's standing out, it's being different. And I believe that remarkability is more important than it's ever been before, because our industries and our markets are becoming more and more competitive every single day. And what I mean by remarkability, it's really being that person who goes above and beyond. It's being the person that does things differently. It's the person that does something that someone wouldn't have thought of doing, but they make the effort to do it. And I mean, if we can think of any example of a remarkable person, Jack Delosa and just what he was talking about this morning is incredibly remarkable because he does things differently. He doesn't follow other people's rules. He does it his way. So I'll be talking to you today about why I think that's important for you guys. And also, I think what I wanted to say to you as well this morning as I was starting to speak is I think it's such an exciting time to be a 16, 17, 18-year-old now, because you guys have so many options. When I graduated or I finished high school when I was 17 in Ireland, and that was 15 years ago. God, that makes me sound very, very old. But that was 15 years ago, and my options at that time were, thankfully I had the opportunity to go to university. That was something that was available to me. But I look at you guys now and what you have the opportunity to go do in terms of how education is evolving so rapidly, in terms of what the Entourage, for example, is doing with education. And you have so many options. And I really, hand on heart, I believe that this is the most exciting time to be an 18-year-old than I think it's ever been before, because the boon of technology, each of you who have grown up with technology, who here is doing Pokemon? I'm not going to put my hand up because I'm not. Pokemon is seriously affecting productivity in my business. Because every now and then people go, there's a dragon cluster outside, and next thing everyone's gone. So I need some policies to manage Pokemon. But what I'm saying is that really the fact that you guys have grown up with tech, and this is you, it's comfortable for you, you've always known it, and how quickly technology is evolving, is the opportunities that you're going to have that I didn't have 15 years ago are just vast. They're absolutely enormous. And I think you'll see more and more of that conversation happening over the next 3 days. I should probably tell you a little bit about me. Once upon a time, this won't be a very long story. So I guess first of all, I'm Irish. Did anyone notice that I'm not Australian? Did anyone pick that up? Have I still got an Irish accent? Yeah, still there. So still Irish. So I moved to Australia 7.5 years ago, and I moved here with my boyfriend at the time. And we hadn't lived together before we left Ireland, or if we left the UK, which can tend to put a bit of pressure on a relationship if you've never lived together and you move to the other side of the world together. And so we split up quite quickly after moving to Australia, and I met my Aussie 4 months later. So I tell all the Aussies that I upgraded to an Aussie because my previous guy was a Pom. And I met him on a doorstep in Sydney, and he's a Port Macquarie boy. So I've spent a lot of time in Port Macquarie already, and it's really cool to be back here doing an event like this. So I met him on a random random doorstep in Sydney, and we got married on that same doorstep 3 years later. So that's my Port Macquarie boy. So you might see him around the streets at some stage. So that's the first really exciting thing that happened to me when I moved to Australia. The second really exciting thing that happened to me was I started my business, the Remarkables Group. And I know Morello already very kindly shared a little bit about my business and what we do. And for me, that was a really exciting and terrifying thing to do, because I had never really thought that I was someone who would be able to start my own business. My parents didn't have their own businesses. None of my friends had their own businesses. So for me, that was something that it was almost what other people did. Other people start businesses. It wasn't something that I thought that I could do. And I had the idea for the business, and I remember one day just saying to myself, well, if I don't do this now, when will I do it? And I said, I need to start this business. And I think that was the first step, was just to make that decision and start it. So these are some of my amazing team, having a lot of fun at my book launch 3 weeks ago. And this is the second big development for me since moving to Australia. And the third was obviously publishing my book, which just came out 3 weeks ago, which has been a really exciting, I think, a milestone for me, because it's 4 years into the business. It's everything I've learned is in there. And a lot of that I want to share with you this morning as well. So that's my story to date. And in terms of what I want to talk to you about today, I'm quite similar to Jack. I was sitting there last week planning this presentation, and I was saying, what could I share with these guys? What could I really share with them for 50 minutes that will give them lots of value and inspire them in line with the theme for today? And I said, well, if I could sit down with Lorraine when she was that 18-year-old just finishing school, what would I want to say to Lorraine then? And what would I want to say to her, knowing all of the challenges, all of the fun, all of the amazing developments, the achievements, the terrifyingly scary moments? What would I say to her, knowing all of that? What would I sit there, if we were almost sitting on the sofa next to each other here, what would I want to say to Lorraine then? And that was what I wanted to share with you guys today. So I've got 6 big things that I would sit here, if it was just me and Lorraine in, I don't even want to think when that was, 2000? Oh my gosh. Some of you not born in 2000. Who wasn't born in 2000? Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Please, next time just keep your hand down so I feel younger, okay? Make me feel much better. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you, and I would share it myself, is be absolutely relentless in your pursuit of knowledge. And I know Jack mentioned this as well, because really, guys, knowledge has never been more available than it is to us today, between the internet, between incredible events like Luminosity, between the free events that happen every single day, with podcasts, with the amazing influences that you can connect with on Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There's probably another one being developed just as I speak. It's around us every single day. And similar to Jack, I've spent a lot of time studying what successful people do, particularly successful entrepreneurs. And what I've realized that they've all got something in common is that they invest so much time and energy in learning. So who here knows Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft? Has anyone heard of someone small, hasn't got much money? Yeah, Bill Gates. So he's a hugely successful person. And something that Bill Gates has done for a number of years is he has Thinking Week, which is 1 week a year. He takes away, all of Microsoft all around the world compile a number of papers, they put them all together, and then his assistants sort through them, and they pick a selection of papers that he will read over that week. And these papers will be global trends, they will be what's happening within Microsoft, they'll be dangerous ideas like what you guys are working on over the next 3 days. And Bill Gates goes to a very, very simple shack near a lake, and he reads these papers. And his record for reading his papers is 121. That's the most he's ever read. And he sits there and he reads. For 7 days straight, that's what he does. He has his meals delivered to him. He sleeps 4 to 5 hours, and he goes out for a walk once a day. So he spends all that time reading. So do you think if someone like Bill Gates is investing a week of his very, very busy year thinking, do we think that that's a good thing that we could probably do? Yes? Yes, me too. Someone else I hugely respect is Lisa Messenger, who's the founder of Collective Hub, and she's a very dear friend of mine. And she, at any one time, is reading 10 to 12 books. She spends an hour or 2 on social media every day, absorbing different trends, what's happening out in the world. Again, she's investing in learning. Someone else you guys might know, Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. Last year, he set himself a challenge to read a book a month. And he created a Facebook group. And last time I checked, I think that Facebook group had almost 1 million people in it. And that was his book a day, or his book a month that he was reading. So what I'm saying is that investing in knowledge and having access to that knowledge is incredibly important, and it's something that I spend a lot of time doing as well. Second thing that I would tell to Lorraine in 2000 is get to know yourself and get to know your dreams. And I thought it was really interesting. I was sitting down the back listening to Jack, and I love that he was saying this as well because it's so important. And when I look back at myself, and not even when I was 18, if I look at myself before I started my business, and that's just 4 years ago, if I look back and look at myself, I honestly feel I was sleepwalking. I had no idea this world of potential and opportunity that was out there for me. I just had no idea. So when I think it was about a year before I started the business, I went to an event which was a personal development seminar. And I remember arriving there on Friday afternoon, and it wasn't unlike the scene that Morello created for us here this morning, where I got there and people were like jumping around, they're high-fiving, they're massaging each other. And I just remember going, holy shit, why am I here? These people are crazy. There's 2,000 crazy people here, and I've got to spend the next 2.5 days with them. And within about half an hour, I was in it. I was jumping around, I was high-fiving, massaging, doing it with everyone else. And what I got out of that weekend was really understanding who I am, who are my values, and I think I heard Jack saying it's going inwards, it's self-exploration, really understanding who I was and what I was trying to achieve from my life. And I really don't have many regrets. I look back at all of the things that have gone wrong, and so many things have gone wrong, but there's only one thing that I regret in my entire life, everything, the bad boyfriends, the bad job decisions, the lost financial investments, everything. And it's not doing that weekend 10 years earlier. Because I think it's really sad that I was 28 and that was the first time that I'd ever actually spent some time thinking about, well, who am I? What are my values? What am I trying to achieve? What are my goals? And I'm so excited for you guys being here for the next 3 days because you're getting that advantage. You're getting to have that time to think about you and your lives and be inspired by each other and be inspired by the speakers. So I think you will walk out of here on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening, and I think you will be asking some really big questions. And I think you'll also have had some huge light bulb moments for you and what you're about and what you're hoping to achieve as well. And the biggest thing probably that I got out of that weekend was, what are my values? So what are my value systems? And for me, values are like signposts. They're the signs and the guides on the route that will help indicate, well, where are you going? Where should you go? And for me personally, what I found out of that weekend is that freedom is my biggest value. So whenever I'm planning anything around my business, anything around travel, anything around finances, it comes down to, for me, it's freedom. So how will this create more freedom in my life? Jack will have his values, Morello will have his values, Kate will have hers. Every single one of you here in this room will have values that are unique to you. And it's incredibly powerful to find out what those values are because, as I said, they set you up for what's to come. And they will provide signposts to you in your life in terms of what you can go on and achieve as well. I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of talk about values over the next 3 days. If you want to do a bit more exploration on this, Tony Robbins has some really great work on YouTube and also some of his courses around extracting what your values are and what's important to you. Something else I would really have loved to tell Lorraine when she was 18 around, and again, it's on this getting to know yourself, is just understanding whether or not you're an extrovert or an introvert. And this was something, and the reason I want to talk to you guys about it this morning is it's something that really I only started to understand about 2 or 3 years ago. And I think there's a bit of a misconception about what introverts and extroverts are. So I think in my mind, I thought that an introvert is someone who is really shy. They don't like going to parties. If they're at a party, they're probably standing around the back. They're not really interacting with anyone. They're just very socially awkward. And I thought that the extroverts are like Morello. So someone who's like, yeah, life and soul, I'm here. Everyone take notice, I'm here. You can't miss Morello. He's such an amazing, incredibly powerful extrovert. And what I realized is 2 or 3 years ago, I was starting to study a little bit more about introvertism and extrovertism, is I actually realized that I am a massive introvert. But that doesn't mean that I can't come and do this. I love being here with you guys. I love being at the party last night. I love chatting to people. I love speaking. I love engaging with my team. I love that. But what it actually means is I actually need some time on my own. Because what happens for an introvert is when they're spending time with people all the time, it's almost like their internal battery starts to wear down. So how they actually recharge that battery is by spending time alone. A little bit of splendid isolation. That's what works for them. On the other hand, an extrovert, like my husband Wade, he gets his energy from spending time with other people. So he's an only child. He went to boarding school. He joined the army. He lived with his college mates. Wade's ideal scenario would be for us to live in a commune, like a hippie commune, of 40 people where he gets to see all his best mates every single day and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And for me, that's my worst nightmare. I can think of nothing worse. I would be a trembling mess if that was me. And the reason I want to share this with you is I think it's really important because I don't get those bolts of inspiration and that self-exploration. I don't get that when I'm out in a busy nightclub with 20, 30 people. I get that when I'm on my own. And for someone else, like Wade, for example, he gets his inspiration from spending time with other people. And I think it's an incredibly powerful thing to understand about yourself, where you sit on that fence. Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Or are you ambiverted, which is where you might be a bit of each? So I think understanding that will really help you because it means that you know how you get your energy and how you get your inspiration. And as the theme today is inspire, I think it's really important to take a bit of a step back sometimes and say, well, how do I get inspired? Because how I get inspired isn't how Jack's going to get inspired. It isn't necessarily how Morello's going to get inspired or any of you are going to get inspired. So really figuring out what is it that sets you up to get inspired, to get that energy, and it's, as I said, it's incredibly powerful when you can actually understand what that is. The third thing I would say to you and say to Lorraine circa 2000 is to follow the flow and the fun. Can anyone tell me what flow means? If I was to say I'm in flow, can someone tell me what that means? I got one hand, yes. Are you rapping? No, and I feel really uncool that I didn't know that. Thank you for that. Any other ideas as to what? If I was to say I'm in flow, what does that mean? Just shout out. You don't need to put your hand up. You're on a roll. In the rhythm or something? Yes, in the rhythm, exactly. So for me, being in flow is that feeling of, I could do this for hours. I forget to go to the bathroom. I forget to eat. I forget to call that person back that I said I'd call because I'm so in flow and I'm just enjoying that task so much that it doesn't even feel like a task. It just feels like something I'm really, really enjoying. I know Jack mentioned African basket weaving. So for me, it's not African basket weaving, but I do love writing, for example. So writing my book, people were saying, that must have been a really hard thing to do. Was it really difficult? Did it take you months and months and months to do? And I said, no, it took me 7 weeks because I was so in flow in that. And what I would love to say to Lorraine and say to you this morning is when you follow that flow, that's when you find amazing things. And other people call it passion. Some people call it magic. It's those things that really excite you and that you would do no matter what. No matter if no one ever paid you again, if none of your friends were interested in doing it, you would still do that because you're in flow and you're really enjoying it. For me, speaking is another thing now that I found that I absolutely adore doing, and I feel so in flow. It's like time just slips away. You don't even know that it's happening. And I want to tell you a story about Eddie on my team. So I know Morello already mentioned that we launched a talent agency for pets last Thursday. And the reason that came about was I had an amazing woman in my team called Tessa, and she said, I really want to introduce you to my friend Eddie, because he has an idea to start a talent agency for pets on the internet. And I remember very clearly sitting there on the day that she mentioned this to me and saying, are you serious? That's crazy. What would that even look like? And I said, tell Eddie to come in for a chat. So Eddie comes in for a chat and he says, this is my big idea. I'm so excited about it. It's something that I think could be really cool. And I said, okay, yeah, let's chat about it. And he said, I'm also looking for an internship. And he it was very cool. He just kind of slid his resume across the table at me. I was like, you're smooth. So we took Eddie on as an intern, and he worked with us for 1.5 years. And just every now and then we'll be out for drinks on a Friday night, or we'll be chatting in a weekly meeting, and Eddie would say, we need to do pets. I'm like, yeah, we need to do pets. We need to launch pets. And finally this January, we were doing our annual planning session. We're actually in Jack's house. And I had Bear, his little puppy, who was like my assistant for the day, which was great. And I said, okay, guys, we need to do pets this year. It needs to happen. And Eddie was like, okay. And he was so scared because he'd never started a talent agency for pets before. He had no idea how to do it. But he was so passionate about it that he just started to see a way, and we worked together very closely over it. So we get to 2 weeks ago. It's the week before we launch pets. And Eddie has been out. He's worked with our suppliers to do a website. He's created an awesome couple of pieces of video content. He has signed up these 8 influencers. So he's just called up these pet and dog owners saying, hey, we'd like to be your agent. And he's made it happen from there. He's created legal contracts. He has managed everything from start to finish with this project. And we're sitting in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and it was kind of a pre-launch, okay, how are we going? And I said, Eddie, how are you feeling? And he said, I feel alive. He was so excited that he was doing this project that he'd been thinking about for so long. And I want to show you a video. This is the launch piece for Remarkable Pets, which is something that Eddie created. And I should also, actually, full disclosure, Eddie has a cat called Albus Greybeard. And this is the reason I think that Remarkable Pets came along. So Eddie has been working on Albus's Instagram for, I think like 1.5 years, 2 years now. And Albus has over 8,000 followers on Instagram. So he's one of our pet owners as well. So he had to sign a contract and everything. So this is our Remarkable Pets.
Remarkable Pet is the first talent agency for social influencers of the furry variety in Australia. I think these pet influencers are important for a few different reasons. We all know that pet content on the internet is very, very highly consumed, and it gets a huge amount of reach and engagement. These influencers that we're representing have built very large and very engaged audiences, and I think the brands are really starting to sit up and take notice.
2 years ago, I adopted Albus from City Dogs and Cats home, and when I first saw him, I thought, oh my God, I need to take a photo of him every single day and upload it on his Instagram, his Facebook, and his following has been growing ever since.
It's still a little bit surreal that there's so many thousands of people that love my little girl almost as much as I do.
We're really excited to work with Remarkable Pets team of furry influencers to make sure that we develop content that's relevant for their respective communities.
Some mic issues. 1 second.
Very close to you.
Okay.
She's back.
Are we back? We're back? Am I handheld or am I
Yeah, go hand.
I'm handheld. Okay. Hi, guys. So the guys took that opportunity for 2 seconds to fix my mic, but it couldn't be fixed, so now I'm handheld. So that was Remarkable Pets. You guys are probably like, did she just run away and she's just never coming back again? Is my hair crazy? What's going on? Ah! Kelly, would you mind just detaching it all together? Yeah. How funny. I'll just dispose of it all together.
Here we go.
There you go. Thank you. This has never happened to me on stage. The worst thing that's ever happened to me, I was speaking at an Entourage event. Thanks, Kelly. I was speaking at an Entourage event, and I got up and I was speaking at an event in Brisbane, and I got up and I was like doing all my whiteboard writing and so on. And I went to wipe it off 5 minutes later and I realised I'd written in permanent marker and I just went, crap. I was warned not to swear as well, so I'm being very, very careful. And Jack was like, you've written in permanent marker. Damn it. So that's just bested that, where I just escaped from the audience for a few minutes. And the other example of flow and following your passion, has anyone heard of Humans of New York? Yes? Cool, okay. So Brandon, who's the founder of Humans of New York, I don't know if anyone's got his book. My team got his book for me 1 year for my birthday. And his story, because I just saw it on Facebook and I was like, oh, this is cool, and now I absolutely love his content. But what actually happened with Brandon with Humans of New York is he was really passionate about photography. He was doing, I actually can't remember what if he was doing law, he was studying something, and he just said, look, my heart isn't in this, I'm not in flow with it. And he said to his parents, I'm moving to New York and I'm just going to photograph people. Can you imagine your parents and what their faces might be if you said that to them? So they said, okay, Brandon, you go do that. So he had no money. He was earning absolutely no money. And he actually moved to New York and was sleeping on his friends' sofas. And he did that for, I think he did that for like 2 years or something before Humans of New York started to actually build some traffic. And as you know now, I just checked it this morning, he's got almost 82 million followers on Facebook. It's enormous. He's published 2 books, and he's, if you've been following it over the last 6 months or so, he's really using it now as a bit of a platform for social justice. So he's been traveling to war-torn countries around the world, and he's really been focusing on how can he use his platform platform to create more awareness of what's going on outside of that tiny bubble of Manhattan. So that's something I would say to you, is really follow your flow. So what are the things that you find really fun, that you have no problem getting out of bed for in the morning? Because inevitably, they're the things that you will be most successful at. And I'll be really honest with Eddie in Remarkable Pets. You know, he's got a full-time job already as part of the main business, the Remarkables Group. And when I said to him, I said to his manager, I said, you know, I know Eddie's got a lot on with Remarkable Pets. He's spending probably 50 to 60% of his time on this new business at the moment. And I said, you know, how is this affecting his work outside? You know, is everything okay? Do we need to hand some of his responsibilities over to someone else in the team? And she said, you know, Lorraine, it's really weird. He's gotten better at everything. She said, all this work he's doing, it's better. You know, sometimes he might miss a couple of things. He hasn't missed anything for months. She said his performance is 10 times better than it's ever been, and yet his workload has doubled. It makes no sense. But when we think about it, when you're excited to do something and you're passionate about it and you feel like you're in flow with it, it just happens easier. Do you guys agree? When there's those things that are just, you just like doing them, and you'd happily do them for hours or days at a time. So follow your flow. I think it's that's what will bring you to those passion projects, like Eddie's seen and like Brandon has seen with Humans of New Work. The next thing I will say is, oh God, is the clicker going to go? Is be courageous. And I want to show you a video. This is one of my favorite videos I've ever seen on the internet.
Have fun.
I'll do it. Well, here goes something, I guess. Oh, okay, you can do this. I'm gonna jump.
You got it.
Whoa, my ski's slipping off.
Just remember, never snowplow, okay?
No snow plows.
Keep it straight, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Same thing you do on the 20.
Straight. Do you go faster on the in run?
Little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Is it any steeper, do you think? Not much?
Same steepness, it's just longer.
Well, just longer. Just longer. Just a bigger 20, that's all.
Yep. Have
It's a
fun.
bigger 20.
Go ahead.
I got it.
It's fine. You'll be fine.
Okay. Here
The longer you wait, you'll be more scared.
I go. Just the suspense at the top at the first time freaks you out. That's the only thing. It's so fun. Huh? 60 seems like nothing now. Whoa!
I cry every time I watch that video. Isn't it just incredible? So some questions for you guys. Do you think... Oh, well, yeah. We need that. I said I cry every time I watch that video. So, some questions. Do you think she's afraid? Yes. Hands up who thinks she's afraid. Yes. Who thinks she's courageous? Yes. So I think what that video showed us, and the fact that we've both said, yes, she's definitely afraid, but she's also courageous, is that courage isn't the absence of fear. So I think we think that courageous people, they're never scared. They just go do things. They never feel any sense of apprehension or can I do this or what if I get hurt or whatever it might be. They just go do it and they're never afraid. And it's not true because you can see and you can hear how scared she is. Did anyone else actually feel scared watching it? Where it's almost like you're in her body. You can feel how she's feeling and your heart starts to go faster and your mouth starts to go dry and your hands get sweaty and you just go, oh God, I don't know if I can do this or not. And I think that's something that I've learned definitely since starting the business is that it's okay to feel scared. That's fine. Everyone feels scared. But the courage is actually saying, yes, I'm going to do this, even though I'm really, really scared. 4 years ago, and I did the Scalable and Saleable program at the Entourage, and I'd done the program for about, I think it was 9 months or something like that. And then Jack and Peter on his team came to me and said, we'd really like you to do a national speaking tour. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And they said, okay, well, we're going to go to 5 different states. So we're going to go to Brisbane, then we're going to go to Melbourne, then we're going to go to Perth, Adelaide, and then finishing up in Sydney. The crowds will be between 80 to 400 people. And you'll be on stage for 3 hours every afternoon on your own without notes. And I looked at them and went, okay. Give you a bit of background. There's a thing, I don't know if you have ever had to do it, where if you're starting a meeting and people will say, okay, so for a bit as an icebreaker, let's go around the room and we'll get everyone to say their name and why they're here or what business they're with. And honestly, I would sit there and I could feel myself getting smaller and smaller when this exercise was done, the closer it came to me. And I would feel so nervous just about saying, oh, I'm Lorraine, I'm from the Remarkables group and I'm here to learn more, whatever it might be. And my heart would beat, that feeling that girl probably had in that ski jump, that's how I felt. I was so nervous about it. So when Jack said this to me, he said, oh yeah, would you do the speaking tour? I found myself going, yeah, I'd love to. And then I came away and went, oh my God, what have I signed up to do? I'm so scared. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I'm so scared of it. And I was really, really terrified because I really was very, very fearful of public speaking. It was probably my worst nightmare was to have to get up like I'm doing here with you guys today and speak. And I did a lot of training. I did a lot of positive mindset. I really worked my ass off on actually feeling like I was strong enough and equipped enough to actually go and do that speaking gig and that speaking tour. And the first day, I did 3 hours in Brisbane. And I remember coming off the stage, and it's exactly the same feeling that girl had in that movie, where I just felt like, yes, I've done this. And it's so much more powerful and so much more validating because I knew how scared I was to do that. And then when you actually overcome that fear and get to achieve something, it's just the best feeling in the world, the absolute best feeling in the world. So that's something I would really say to me when I was 18, because I think I was so afraid. And I don't know what I was afraid of. I think I was afraid, what would my friends think of me? None of my friends are doing this, therefore can I do it? My family have never done anything like this. So for me, just to pass one message on to you guys today is it's okay to be afraid if there's a huge goal that you're trying to achieve, or someone asks you to do something and you're kind of going, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that. It's okay to feel afraid, but the courage comes from actually committing to that and making it happen. So courage, would love you to take that down. It's not the absence of fear. They're very, very different things. Another thing, and I think this is something that I learned really early in my career, is to practice gratitude. And what I mean by gratitude, it's being grateful for the tiny, tiny, tiny little things in your life and the amazing big things in your life that you get to have. How I practice gratitude is every night before I go to sleep, I list the 5 things that I'm grateful for that happened that day. And there might be big things like, my book was published, but obviously you don't get a book every single day. It might be, I'm so grateful that all my meetings went to plan today because I had a really busy day and everything went to plan. It might be, I got up early enough like I did this morning and I got to walk down to Lighthouse Beach and see the sunrise. So all those little things, just going asleep with those 5 grateful things, it's really powerful. And Oprah Winfrey has a really great quote where she says that until you're grateful for what you have, you won't get more. So I think you might find it interesting when you hear people talk about, I've no money and, my job's crap or school's just not going well. And they're so focused on what they don't have that they lose sight of all the incredible stuff on the other side that they do have. And gratitude, and creating that gratitude in your life really attracts in so many incredible opportunities. And I would really say to you, I've got some really hugely successful, wealthy friends that I'm very lucky to be friends with. And one of them, for example, just sold his business for $48 million. He's incredibly successful and now extremely financially successful. And he's also one of the most grateful people I know. And that's what I've noticed from spending time with people, with successful people, is they're more grateful than anyone else that I've ever met. And there's something that I would love to share with you. And it's, as I said, it's something I learned in my career. Has anyone here received a thank you card this year? Quite a few people. That's awesome. That's so exciting. Generally, when I speak, probably less than 5% of the room have received a thank you card. And for me, sending thank you cards has been the #1 tool that I've used in my business to build it to the financial level and the profile level that we have. And I send thank you cards all the time. My team and I send gratitude, we do call it Gratitude Friday, where we send thank you cards every Friday afternoon. And we send thank you cards to a client who's given us a new campaign. We send them to a journalist who's written a story about us. We send them to one of our bloggers who might have met a deadline that was a really tricky deadline, they made it happen. And the amount of goodwill that generates back to us it's just incredible. And we notice it all the time. I think it's quite sad that while it's amazing that your age demographic has so much technological advantage in terms of all the different tools that we have at our disposal now, I think it's also quite sad because I think the age of the handwritten note it's passing. And I think there's probably people in your generation as millennials who might never send a thank you card and they might never receive a thank you card. And I want to share with you a very quick story about how a thank you card helped my business. About 3 years ago, we had a very, very big client and they owed us $180,000. And every single person who I knew in this business had left the business, so I knew absolutely no one. And 3 months before this, I had actually met the CEO at an event. Very quickly, he poured me a glass of champagne. That was it. There was nothing else to it. So 3 months later, I'm freaking out because my business is owed so much money. And I'm just saying, I actually don't know how to get this money. And I said, well, I could send the CEO an email. And I said, well, if I send the CEO an email, he probably gets 100, probably thousands of emails a day. Who am I? He doesn't really care. But I sent him an email and I said, look, I just wanted to say, you may remember I sent you a note after that amazing event I went to 3 months ago. We're in a really difficult position. The business is owed a lot of money. And just to give you background, I wasn't sleeping at night. I was absolutely panicking about the fact that we didn't have this money because so much of that money was for our bloggers. And I was saying, they've already done over half the work. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to tell them that we may not get this money in. I might lose my business, which means I lose my team, and then what do I do? It was all building into a very, very scary scenario. So I sent him the email and I said, look, just wanted to let you know this is where I'm at. I don't know if there's anyone at all that you could potentially hook me up with. And he emailed back within 2 hours and he said, I'm so sorry. This is not how I like to do business. I've CC'd this person who's going to get this fixed for you. And we had the money in our account 24 hours later. It was incredible. And if I hadn't have sent that thank you card 3 months beforehand to him, I wouldn't have had that relationship with him. So what I would say to you is think about the people that maybe you see potentially like speaking at an event. It might be a teacher at school who's really helped you with something. It might be a mentor. It might be someone who gave you your first work experience role. Think about those kind of people and just go that extra mile, be remarkable and send them a thank you note. Because honestly, guys, we hire so many interns in our business and I can remember exactly the ones who on their last day gave us a thank you note and left us. They might just have given us a thank you note. They might have given us a box of chocolates, a bunch of flowers, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter how big it is. But just the thought and the gratitude that they express, I always remember those people. So think about how you can use that in your career as you go into your career now. How can you create that for you? Because it's remarkable. So few of the people that will go on to mentor you will ever have received a thank you card. So for you to be that person really sets you apart. And the last thing I want to leave you on is with a very, very small story. I want you to remember that anything is possible. So if I flash back to myself when I was 17, I was from a very small town in Ireland. What's the population of Port Macquarie, actually? 73,000? Wow. So Port Macquarie is 5 times bigger than the village where I grew up. So I was from a very, very small town in Dublin. As I said, my family weren't in businesses. We had money, but we're by no means wealthy. And I just never in a million years thought that I would be here speaking to you guys today with a book, with a successful business, having the opportunities that I have today. It's nowhere near where I thought I might be. And I want to give you a very clear illustration of what I mean by that. Last year, as I said, I love sending thank you cards. I think they're very, very important. And Sir Richard Branson is someone that's really inspired me. And that's not that I've ever met Sir Richard Branson, but I've read his books, I followed his blogs, I follow him on Instagram, I follow him on Twitter. And he's someone that I love to glean information from. So again, going back to that building knowledge. And last year I sent him a thank you card. And I said, okay, I really want to go to Necker Island. So I put that in the thank you card. I said, I just want to send you a thank you note to say thank you for inspiring me in my business. And also, I've got a goal to go to Necker Island in 2016. And I had no idea how I was going to make that goal a reality. Absolutely none. But I sent the card and I Instagrammed it because I was like, I need to make this goal public, and that way then I'll make it happen. So this was back in, I think it was 44 weeks ago, according to Instagram, whenever that might be. So I sent the card and I said, okay, that goal's out there. The biggest thing was just to tell him thank you, and I appreciated all of his guidance. Not that he knew he was guiding me. And then I had an opportunity 3 months ago where I had an email saying, we're putting together a trip to Necker Island. Would you like to come? And I went, yes! And this is the moment that I arrived on Necker Island. I was so excited. And I think I travelled about 36 hours to get here. And I was still like, yes, this is the best thing ever. So I got to actually hang out with Richard Branson. I got to have dinner with him. He had breakfast, lunch and dinner with us most days. So I got to actually talk to him and got to give him a copy of my book. And I got to get this picture, guys. Hello, it's Richard Branson reading my book. Do you think that, thank you. Thank you so much. Do you think that Lorraine Murphy, sitting in Dublin in 2000, would have thought that this would ever happen? I'm not allowed to swear. Hell no. She would never, ever have thought that that would happen. So I really want to leave you on the point that anything is possible. Absolutely anything you want to achieve is possible. And I'm almost envisioning myself at 18 sitting here, and I almost get choked up thinking about this because I wish I could say to her that she is more talented, she has more potential, she's more remarkable, she is braver than she ever in a million years thought that she could ever be. And I really want to share that with you as well, because I would say that to every single one of you. You have so much potential. There's so much out there for you to achieve. And I honestly believe that nothing is impossible if you can have a big dream and you're prepared and you're happy to work your ass off to get there. And I know that that's something that Samantha's going to be talking about later on in the conference as well, about belief. And I really, that's the thought and the energy that I want to leave you on, is that you have so much in you, like so much. If I just look at myself when I was 18, I just didn't even know it was there. I had no idea. And you have that in you as well. And I'm so excited to hear how you go over the next 3 days and exploring that part of yourself and what dreams that you can go on and achieve. Thank you.